evening. This is the I-24 News Evening Edition of Lucy Arish, and these are the headlines. Dozens more Syrians are evacuated from the besieged city of Homs as the next round of fragile negotiations on Syria gets underway in Switzerland. A reconciliation between Israel and Turkey seems near as the Turkish foreign minister announces that a compensation deal to families of those killed on the Navi Marmara will be reached in the near future. I-24 News on the ground training with the Israeli military's Givati Infantry Brigade, part of Israel's Southern Command. Good evening again. The second round of the Geneva II talks began today in Switzerland as hundreds of residents continue to be evacuated from the besieged city of Homs. UN Special Envoy Lakhdar Brahimi announced today he will meet separately with all of the factions in the next few days. I-24 News reporter Uli Shapira has the story.
The second round of Geneva II talks opened today in Switzerland, and although both sides agreed to renew the talks, neither of them sounds very optimistic about the results, some already offering an alternative plan.
We submitted also another paper talking about our vision to the political solution by transition to a transitional governing body. This is what Geneva communique says.
In the coming days, UN envoy Lakhdar Brahimi is set to meet representatives of Syria's warring sides separately. Brahimi is hoping this tactic will help bring a breakthrough in the talks, but even so, expectations for reconciliation are low.
Brahimi proposed that he would like to meet with the two parties separately because he realized last week we made no progress because the regime people were here to waste our times and the time of the Syrian people.
Don't understand that we are imposing a new agenda, as the other party and its supporters are instructing them to do. No, we want to discuss Geneva communique 1 point by 1 point from point number 1 until the end of this list.
Meanwhile, in Syria, fighting continues. 15 rebels were killed yesterday in Aleppo from a government barrel bomb attack. While in Homs, the UN and the Red Crescent managed to evacuate hundreds of residents from the besieged city. As both sides begin the second round, the people of Aleppo and Homs can only look at the pile of debris they once considered their homeland.
And with me on set is Middle East analyst, senior Middle East analyst Ali Wakad. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming to the studio. So first of all, they're putting together in the same room now separately?
They started separately also the last round of negotiations, and I believe that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, Lakhdar Brahimi will succeed to bring them together. It will be much more difficult than the last time. This time on the table there will be sustainable ceasefire and the very big issue of the transition government, where the opposition is demanding two things: that this transition government will have the full sovereignty and the full power, and it is still demanding that Bashar Assad won't have that big influence over this transition government. But we should pay attention to something, Lucy, that while the delegations are talking, on the ground, atrocities are committed, massacres are taking place.
So, Ali, what is exactly the situation on the ground concerning Homs?
On the ground, exchange of fire is permanent. Today, 70 Alawite were massacred by the jihadist group. The opposition in Geneva found itself obliged to condemn this massacre, which is not obvious that the opposition condemned an act operated by another group of the opposition. This is why we say that talks are not between two homogenic groups. There is the regime and there is the opposition that is not sure that it's representing the whole groups of the opposition. But we should not underestimate the impact of what is going on the ground over the negotiations. The massacre of 70 Alawites will no doubt harden the positions of the official delegation of the regime.
Yes, Ali, you're staying with me here in the studio. We will be discussing later on about the Iranian issue. But before that, Turkey's foreign minister announced that Israel and Turkey are very close to reaching a state of normalization of relations and ending the long-running saga over the 2010 Mavi Marmara incident. A Turkish delegation arrived a week ago to Israel to discuss the matter, including the amount of compensation to be paid to the families of the 9 Turks killed. Israeli diplomatic officials refused to comment on the matter. And right now on the phone with me is Alon Liel, former Israeli ambassador to Turkey. Good evening. Thank you very much for this phone call.
Good evening.
So, Alon, you're of course with us in a Skype call. What are the interests of the Turkish government for reconciliation with Israel now?
First, I still believe everything is subject to internal Turkish politics. End of March, we have municipal elections in Turkey. I think Erdogan will sign this agreement with Israel if he will believe it might help him in the elections, and he will not sign if he will think it will cause him damage. So still, I think we have to keep an open eye on internal Turkish politics. This will be the main factor determining.
Alon, but let's not forget that Erdogan had a visit in Iran a few weeks ago. How is this going to affect the relationship between Israel and Turkey?
I don't think this will affect too much. There are all kinds of considerations, regional considerations, like a real crisis in the Turkish-Egyptian relations, the fact that Turkey lost Syria and Assad is probably staying in power, and now this recent rapprochement with Iran. Generally speaking, he didn't maneuver very cleverly in the Middle East, so the question still is, if he adds Israel to the countries in which he has an ambassador, does it help him or not? Because Israel has a very specific color here, and his voters are usually Islamists, and I'm not sure he'll be popular with his traditional voters, and it might be popular with the opposition, but I don't know if it will help him. So I don't think the regional diplomatic issues are here as important as internal politics.
Yes, Alon Liel, former Israeli ambassador to Turkey. Thank you very much for this phone call with us. And removing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet with U.S. President Barack Obama at the White House on March 3rd. Netanyahu confirmed today the meeting of the two leaders at a press conference following a meeting of his Likud party's Knesset faction. Netanyahu said that they will discuss the Iranian nuclear program and blasted Iran, accusing the Islamic Republic of consistently aiding the Assad regime in Syria to carry out massacres. And Israeli media reports that Netanyahu intends to negotiate this state's membership in the Pacific Alliance that includes Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. According to the report, he's planning to visit Colombia and Mexico to promote this move. And we're moving to Iran. Iran announced on Monday that it has successfully tested 2 missiles. The defense minister added that the missiles were a new generation of ballistic missile with a fragmentation warhead and a laser-guided surface-to-surface and air-to-surface missile. Meanwhile, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said today during a speech to foreign diplomats in Tehran that the nation is ready to begin negotiations with the P5+1 to achieve a comprehensive and final agreement. And still with me, of course, Middle East analyst Ali Waked. So Ali, it seems that Iran is playing in an obvious way in 2 fields.
No doubt the Iranian leadership is playing into two fields, but one field is the internal field, the hardline part of the regime. Rouhani needs to show this hardline elements that he's not giving up totally and fully the former strategy of building Iran as a superpower, as a country that will be taken into any consideration of the West. But I think that the true Rouhani is the one that we heard speaking to the foreign diplomats, to the Western diplomats today in Tehran. The Iranian leadership know that the elections took place over the internal issue, over the sanctions and the impact of the financial and economic sanctions on the day-to-day life of the average Iranian in the street, and they're not ready to go back to more sanctions and to this critical financial crisis when a big delegation of businessmen, of French businessmen, visit Iran last week, and they started studying investments in Iran. The Iranian leadership will not give up this opportunity for some force games that they are playing right now with the West. And if you gave a look at the warships that the Iranians send to the ocean, to the territorial water of the U.S., it's not something serious, it's not something significant. I don't believe that the Iranians themselves are taking this into very serious.
But I have to say, Ali, this is a very dangerous game.
It is a very dangerous game. It is a very dangerous game because the Iranians are testing the patience of the United States and of the international community, while on the ground it is not delivering the dismantling of its atomic projects. I believe that as long as we are going on towards the conclusion of the agreement, of the final agreement between Iran and between the international community, once the Iranian see the financial opportunity and the fact that the international community will accept the right of Iran to have nuclear energy and not for war targets, the Iranian will be accepting any compromise.
Ali, thank you very much. And this is not the only issue that Iran is dealing with. And as the headlines are marked with Iran's talk of negotiations and new missile tests, another trend inside Iran, a growing number of executions. The most recent raised a wave of indignation as it centered on a poet and a member of persecuted minority. And joining me right now from Paris is Laden Bronman, research director at the Raymond Bronman Foundation, an NGO that focuses on documenting of victims of the executions in Iran. So first of all, good evening. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you for having me.
So what are the statistics exactly?
The statistics are absolutely deplorable. Just to give you an example, in 2012, we documented 537 executions. In 2013, 738 executions. And in 2014, only a month and 10 days, 117 executions. So this is an extremely worrying trend of executions that should attract the attention of the international community.
So the procedure and process of law and trial interrogation there, what other forms of punishment are being used, to your knowledge?
Yes. There are the other form of punishments that verdicts are limb amputation, for example, for theft and stealing things. People can lose their fingers, and this is in a country that the officials and embezzlements are current by millions or billions of dollars, and a small petty theft could be punished by cutting off the fingers of people. We have documented 5 verdicts of limb amputation last year, 1 eye gouging, and 142 floggings punishment and verdicts. But this is not all, because they are not announced. You know, flogging people is a very current punishment around the country everywhere. But the worst thing also is that to issue a verdict, the judge can issue its verdict based on the confession of the accused, and the accused are very often tortured to confess to crimes they have not committed. And the poet you mentioned, Hashim Sha'bani, and his friends, Muhammad Ali Amurinejad, who were ethnic Arab minority and cultural activists, very peaceful, were tortured to confess to being terrorists. And then, based on this confession, they have been executed.
Yes, Ladan Barouman, thank you very much for this call with us. And we're moving. Yemen's president and main parties agreed today to transform the country into a 6-region federation, part of a political transition. The approval came at a committee meeting headed by President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi and including representatives of Yemen's main parties. Also today, some 100 protesters took to the streets of Sana'a to demand the government resign. They called for the dismissal of the president, who has been facing challenges in trying to restore stability to the country of 25 million. Yemen has been struggling to restore some balance of stability since the death of President Ali Abdullah Saleh in 2011. Economic tensions between the European Union and Switzerland mounted today in the aftermath of a Swiss referendum to limit the number of European migrants entering the country. I-24 News correspondent Tal Shalev has the story.
A day after the Swiss public decided to stop mass migration into the country, the forecast for the future is clear: scrambled relations between Switzerland and the European Union. 50.3% of Swiss voters narrowly backed the referendum proposal, imposing a ceiling on the number of foreign migrants entering the country, including citizens of the EU and daily cross-border commuters from neighboring countries such as Italy, France, and Germany. The reactions didn't take too long.
It's a worrying vote because it means that Switzerland wants to withdraw into itself.
Like many other countries of the continent, immigration and national identity have created a heated debate in Switzerland, in which a quarter of its 8 million people is foreign, with 80,000 new immigrants arriving just last year. Stop mass immigration, foreign invasion, swamp of culture and identity, and other warnings have been issued by the right-wing Swiss People's Party, which initiated the proposal, claiming that free movement has put pressure on housing, health, education, and transport.
Everything is about the economy, because people are afraid that immigrants will come here en masse and take their jobs, which in my opinion is wrong.
The government opposed the initiative too, seeing free movement as a key to economic success. But in the Swiss political system, the people's word is the last, even if it is by a marginal majority. Independent Switzerland is not a member of the EU, but has adopted large sections of European policy. Its immigration policy is based on free movement of citizens to and from the bloc. Moreover, open border treaties allow Swiss goods to circulate freely within Europe, and over half of Swiss exports go to the EU. Now that the people have decided, the government will have to renegotiate its bilateral free movement agreement, and Brussels has already warned that other accords will be examined.
Even now, in the follow-up of this referendum, Switzerland has to modify the laws and to limit free movement also for EU citizens. Then we have to react and to discuss and perhaps to renegotiate the agreement with Switzerland.
The outcome of the close weekend vote will be watched closely by other European leaders. With immigration high on the agenda for many countries in the continent, the future of free movement is a crucial point.
It's definitely a crucial point. And coming up on this evening edition, I-24 News on the ground, training with the Israeli military's Givati Infantry Brigade, part of Israel's Southern Command. The latest athlete to bring homosexuality into the open. A look at the changing landscape of professional sports. Don't go anywhere. 2 minutes break, and I'll be back with all the news and more. Welcome back. And a high-level Fatah delegation met with Hamas Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh on Sunday in the Gaza Strip. The discussions centered around ways of ending the rivalry between the two parties. Haniyeh said during the meeting that his government has taken a strategic decision to achieve reconciliation with Fatah. Nabil Shat, who led the Fatah delegation, praised Hamas for taking real measures on the ground towards ending the crisis. Since June 2007, when the Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip, Palestinians have been divided between two separate governments. And right now, joining me on the phone from Jerusalem is Dimitri Diliani, member of the Fatah Revolutionary Council. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, you're welcome.
So this was a very high-ranked meeting. Can we say that after this meeting, reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah is getting closer?
Evidently, yes, it is getting closer, but we cannot be sure until it's done. But at the same time, we have to know that there is nothing to negotiate about. Everything has been negotiated, agreed upon, and now it's time for execution. Hamas has been halting execution of what has been agreed about for quite some time, and I think they came to realize that this is the time to go ahead and execute it for their own reasons.
Mr. Diliani, I want to understand something. Just a few days ago, we heard Hamas talking and reacting to Abu Mazen's offer about the Kerry framework, and they went out, let's say, against it. How come now they want the reconciliation?
When we don't have reconciliation, this is the only position that Hamas can have. Hamas cannot agree with the PLO and President Abbas, and at the same time hold Gaza hostage. So as long as they're holding Gaza hostage, they will have to take that position for internal political reasons. They want to have credibility for it somehow. And I'm sure in Israel and anywhere else where you have the opposition on the right.
So who is going to win from this reconciliation? Who is going to benefit from this reconciliation?
The peace process for sure, because agreeing to reconciliation, that means agreeing to the vision of the PLO for political settlement, something that Khalid Mishal, the head of the political bureau of Hamas, has expressed so many times. So I believe the great benefit goes to the Palestinian people and to the peace process.
Dimitri Diliani, thank you very much for this phone call. As Israel continues to face immense security challenges, producing next-generation infantry soldiers remains an imperative. I-24 News correspondent Charles Biblisser got an up-close and personal look today at exactly how the IDF goes about doing so.
The drive to where the Givati Brigade's Shaked Regiment will conduct its military exercise is both lengthy and bumpy. There are no paved roads leading into the heart of Israel's Negev. Israel is a country that is literally surrounded by threats. To the north is the Syrian civil war, as well as Hezbollah-dominated Lebanon. Westward is the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip, whereas on the southern frontier is the growing presence of global jihadist elements. For Israel, then, even in peacetime, there is always a need to prepare for war. It is against the backdrop of this vast desert that we catch our first glimpse of soldiers in the distance. At 18 or 19 years of age, they are nearing the completion of their military training. Within months, most will be deployed to potential conflict zones, making this week all the more important.
This week is called War Week. Basically what they're doing is doing company drills that let them deal with different objects of enemy.
After a short security briefing by Commander Meir, this otherwise picturesque landscape is transformed into a simulated war zone. There is an organized chaos to the soldiers' cooperation. One squad replaces and reinforces the position of the next as the front line pushes forward, just as it would in real battle, neutralizing one enemy stronghold at a time. The sounds are deafening. In the melee, we struggle to keep up with Commander Meir. He warns us to follow his back and stay behind him. The real-life alternative is to cross into the line of fire. We're here right smack in the middle of a live-fire IDF drill. As you can see behind me, the soldiers are firing towards makeshift targets just on the top of the slope behind us. We have to move. This is the real deal. It's live fire. This is how the soldiers of the IDF practice and get ready. The experience of these 100-plus troops parallels that of most Israeli youth. Formative years of their lives are asked of them, and they must fight for whatever cause, whether deemed right or wrong, if called upon.
Those soldiers can find themselves in this aspect or the other, maybe in the north, maybe in the south, depends on the enemy. We prepare for the worst, but we pray for the best.
Perhaps one day these military exercises will be unnecessary. For now, though, Israel's enemies remain at its gates, where the soldiers of the Givati Brigade will soon be tasked with putting their training into practice.
On the field. Tensions between North and South Korea are high ahead of a planned joint military drill between the United States and the South set for February 24th. I-24 News reporter Roni Ben-Bassat has the story.
The annual joint South Korea-U.S. military exercise is approaching, and along with it, the annual tensions between the South and its northern neighbor. The 2-month-long drills, which are planned to begin in 2 weeks, have attracted protest and warning from Pyongyang, which called them exercises of war. North Korea already threatened last week to cancel planned family reunions with the South if the exercise went ahead.
It is an annual and defensive exercise which is not related to the family reunion. So our government thinks that the reunion should go ahead as previously agreed and planned with the North.
The decision to go ahead with the drill is also threatening to impact North Korea's already rocky relations with the United States, with the imprisonment of American missionary Kenneth Bae, who has been held in the country for over a year. On Sunday, the North withdrew a recent invitation to U.S. Special Envoy Robert King to discuss Bae's release. But only hours after the cancellation, the North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported a former U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Donald Gregg, had arrived in Pyongyang. The purpose of the visit, however, remained vague.
We're very happy to be back in Pyongyang, my first time in about 8 years. So we're looking forward to talks and happy to see you. Thank you.
But it seems like tension is a two-way street, as the North's nuclear program is once again raising concerns with the South. The country's defense minister said today that North Korea has finished preparations for another nuclear test, a step that may have further implications in the near future.
Kazakhstan's leader has a focus on names. Previously, it was the Kazakh capital name he changed, and now he's rethinking the name of the nation itself. The president is now promoting the idea of changing the name to Kazakh Ali to distinguish it from the other Central Asia countries. I-24 News reporter Eli Ochenberg checked the history of countries swapping names.
The Kazakh president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, is aiming to drop the stan from his country's name to distinguish his booming oil-rich nation from the rest of Central Asia, where the other so-called stans are mostly stuck in poverty. The name is also thought to resemble more hostile countries such as Pakistan and Afghanistan. The president, who's been in power for more than 2 decades, offered a new name, Kazakh Ali, which stands for the land of the Kazakhs, saying it would be more eye-catching for foreigners. The world's 9th largest nation by area, with a population of just 17 million, Kazakhstan is the strongest economy of the post-Soviet region. Foreign companies have invested billions of dollars in the nation's mineral wealth since its independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, but Kazakh officials say the vast country of steppes and mountains is still little known in the world. If the name change goes forward, it will not be a world precedent. In 1989, the military government of Burma decided to change the country's name to Myanmar. Another example is Thailand, which has changed its name to and from Siam a couple of times. A different case is Georgia, which has distanced itself further from Russia by lobbying countries around the world to drop its Russian-sounding Soviet-era name, Gruzia, in favor of its English language, Georgia. But if the Kazakh president's goal is to distinguish the country's name from the other stands, he might need to do his homework. Stan, place of, or country of, or land of. Kazakhstan, independent and free. Kyrgyzstan, land of mountaineers. Tajikistan, a person wearing a crown on his head. Uzbekistan, genuine man. Turkmenistan, I am a Turk. Pakistan, land of the pure. Afghanistan, used in reference to the ancient Pashtun tribe. The region of today's Kazakhstan has been through a lot, including the invasion of the alleged Kazakh leader Boat, and now the blooming country is trying to pave a new path in its history with the belief, change your name, change your luck.
Changing the name, changing the luck. American football player Michael Sam, a former defensive lineman for the University of Missouri and an NFL draft prospect, came out of the closet yesterday. Sam is part of a recent wave of athletes choosing an open approach to the subject of homosexuality in a field still overshadowed by homophobia and stigma. I-24 News reporter Roni Ben-Bassat explains.
At a time gay rights in sports couldn't be more intertwined, it seems more and more athletes are choosing to come out of the closet. On Sunday, it was Michael Sam, a star U.S. college football player and a top prospect in upcoming NFL drafts.
Came to tell the world that I'm an openly proud gay man.
Sam, who came out in an interview with the ESPN network, was not the first American athlete to do so with the help of the media. Last April, veteran NBA player Jason Collins revealed he was gay in an article for Sports Illustrated magazine.
And joining me now...
Over the last years, gay communities have made strides towards greater equality. Same-sex marriages are recognized in 17 U.S. states and in many other countries across the globe. However, gay athletes often do not get to enjoy that acceptance and become subject of discrimination, negative stereotypes, and social stigma.
Gay football players so far don't exist officially. I've heard homophobic comments when I was playing, but I think it's always a different matter once people know who is gay, and then we can judge it afterwards.
Thomas Hitzelsperger waited 6 months after he retired to finally come out of the closet, hoping his move would encourage younger players to feel comfortable to do the same. Hitzelsperger's days in professional sports may be behind him, but for Michael Sam, it's only the beginning. He could become the NFL's first openly gay player and pave the way for many others in the field.
This is, to me, it's just telling another person that, hey, I'm gay, and then it shouldn't be a big problem.
And joining me now is the host of I-24 News Magazine, Jason Danino Holt. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
So, surprise, surprise with Flappy Bird.
Just last week we talked about this app.
I hate this game.
Well, nothing to hate anymore because it's been removed from the App Store. Its creator, Dong Nagoyan, okay? He decided, though, he makes $50,000 a day from this app. And though 50 million people have downloaded it, though it became a trend, he said that it's too much for him. Fame has its prices, and he's not willing to pay them, which is a weird statement. So many rumors have appeared on why would something so successful just end itself so quickly.
If you're making money out of it.
Well, some of the theories say that, Vietnamese mafia has something to do with it. Other theories say that he's taking it down only to re-upload it and charge for the download. We don't really know. What we do know is since the game is no longer downloadable, iPhones on eBay with the game already downloaded on them have appeared for the price of almost $100,000. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
Somebody is willing to buy
You
my
have it on your phone? Exactly,
yes,
exactly.
for $100,000?
Well, people offered.
Okay, I'm offering my iPhone 5. Yes. So next, Israeli startup?
An Israeli startup that became the #1 hit on the educational apps in the App Store. We have an interview on the Tube later on today with the CEO of the app. It's called Piano Mania. Apple said that iPads are the future of education. And this is an amazing example of what it does. It's basically an app that aids you while you're practicing your piano lessons. Now, the thing about it has music sense. It hears you play. You don't need internet. You don't need anything. And it gets to know you, the way you play, what are your mistakes. And it's someone to practice with.
Wow.
Sounds cool. It's really, really cool. And it's very successful. And as I said, we have an interview with the CEO this evening to talk about the success.
The Tube and Amazon is going live.
Yeah,
This is big news.
it's big news because everybody's talking about what Netflix did last year with House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. Now, apparently, Amazon last year also did 2 shows that 2 comedies, one named Alpha House, the other one named Beta. None of them were a huge success, but
Alpha House and Beta.
Yeah, I know. Different shows, very similar name. But what they're doing this year is they did a pilot season. They did last year, but this year it's more with a big guns atmosphere to it. 10 pilots that Amazon Prime users can choose who are the good ones, give their comments, and they decide which of the pilots will become a full
interactive.
Yeah, it's
TV.
interactive. And when I say big guns, I mean the creator of The X-Files, Chris Carter, has a show called The After. You have Gael García Bernal starring in Gael García Bernal in the show. So we're gonna see, maybe the next big thing in television will be something made by Amazon.
I'm still with the $100,000. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but geeks have...
Offer my phone.
Yeah, I will.
Your show.
I will.
Jason Danina Hall, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes. Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan have been named as the most generous American philanthropist in 2013. The Chronicle of Philanthropy reported that the couple donated 18 million shares of Facebook stock valued at more than $970 million to a Silicon Valley nonprofit in December. The magazine publishes an annual list of 50 most generous Americans. They're generous, which is a very good news. Still ahead on this I-24 News Evening Edition. The daily debate, a shift in the Middle East balance of power as a new arms deal is struck between Russia and Egypt. Is U.S. influence in the region decreasing? And on one-on-one with former Israeli Minister Michael Malkior, a unique rabbinical figure in the Israeli religious landscape. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be very interesting. 2 minutes break, and I'll be back.